There we go. Hi, Amanda. We'll just let the room fill up while more people find the link and check their Slack. Hi, Harfin. Hope you're well.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty well, thanks. Just wanted to um, what did I want to do? Oh, sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather today. Um, just wanted to let the room fill up a little bit, and then we can dive into what I believe is going to be a Q&A. But just going to give some people some time to find the link. I know that Jack is actively working on a solution because sometimes these creative reviews are very, very busy, as in we've got like 20 pieces of creative to review, including all the images and videos and stuff like that. And then sometimes we don't have any to review. So I know that Jack's working on a kind of like happy medium for that or an outcome that suits everyone for that. But yeah, for this one, we're just going to do a straight up Q&A session. We'll keep the format the way we usually do for anyone who's new. If you have any questions, you can put your hand up and I will answer anything that you've got. Additionally, if you've got any microphone issues or something like that, you can just put any questions in the chat and I can get to those whenever I possibly can in between questions. But wanted to open up the floor now then to see if anybody's got some initial questions right off the bat. And if not, I did want to just speak a little bit about Learning Limited. But yeah, just wanted to know if anyone's got some questions. If you do, put your hand up. But if not, I'm just going to kind of launch into Learning Limited because I know that quite a few people in the group have been messaging me about Learning Limited outside of these calls, and I thought it'll be great to first of all address it for anybody who's curious on this call. And second of all, it'll be great to address it so that I can kind of point people to a resource that we actually have where we're covering this. So if yeah, like I say, if at any point you have a question, you can put your hand up. But for now, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about Learning Limited. So I'll have a sip of water first. So Learning Limited, you might have seen it. It's a delivery thing that happens on the ad set campaign and ad level, where you can see under the delivery column you get this caution, and it says Learning Limited. And quite often people will panic here and think that their performance is drastically affected, and they will ask me like how do I possibly get out of Learning Limited? So I wanted to cover how you do that and whether it's important or not. So we'll start with the latter question, first of all, and I'm going to say that it's not massively important in terms of getting out of the learning phase. It's not going to be the difference between you getting profitable results and unprofitable results. Ads in Learning Limited can be profitable, and for example, a retargeting campaign, I would expect to see in Learning Limited, and I would expect to see really good results on it for a business that's doing well. So worth thinking about there that it can be that way around. And additionally, an active campaign, meaning it's not in Learning Limited and it's getting more than 50 conversions a week, that can mean that that can be an unprofitable campaign. It can have unprofitable ad sets and ads underneath it. So really worth thinking about there. Um, I, when it works like that, we need to consider how we approach these things, and what we consider to be important. So, sorry. So when we're talking about Learning Limited, it's important to know that it's not the end of the world. Ads in Learning Limited can be profitable, and ads outside of Learning Limited can be unprofitable. So it's clearly not the deciding factor. The second thing that I'd like to cover now that we've covered like how high up in terms of priority is it, of how we need to consider it not being super high up. Um, I also wanted to cover uh, essentially what it is, what causes learning limited. So learning limited is, as I mentioned, it's a caution on the delivery column where it says your ads aren't essentially getting enough data. So what it's saying is that our ads aren't getting enough data to maximize the machine learning. And so what Facebook have chalked that number up to is 50 conversions a week. So whatever you're optimized for, whether that's leads, purchase, schedules, anything like that, you need to be hitting 50 of those per week to get out of Learning Limited. Now, you might be saying to me, but Carl, I'm not definitely not going to do that. With my budget or the way I've got my account set up, or with the optimization event that I'm using, you might be selling a 10 grand course. How am I going to be getting 50 purchases a week on that? You know what I mean? When I've got such high qualification. And the truth is, a lot of the time you won't. And that is just fine. You can run an account where every single ad is in Learning Limited and they're all profitable. It happens. It definitely happens. So I don't want anyone to think that Learning Limited is this kind of mythical bridge that once you've crossed it into the land of active ads, instead of being in Learning Limited, you're all your woes are forgotten. Like it's not that. It doesn't exist like that. All it is a little label on your ad or your ad set or your campaign that says this is not getting enough conversions to maximize the machine learning benefits. Yeah. So when we're talking about learning benefits, the way machine learning works is the more data, the faster it learns. The more data, the faster it learns, and it starts to snowball and speed up. So the problem is if you're not getting it lots of data, it doesn't turn very quickly and it takes a while to pick up. That is going to be the case for some people. But what I would say is that sometimes with Learning Limited, it's just not the biggest priority for you. And I'll break this down. Let's say that you're doing work in a really successful account. Yeah, things are going well. You get 100 purchases a month, so that's 25 purchases. Things are going well, 100 purchases a month across the whole account, and then let's say you're running five ad sets underneath that. Yeah. The problem with Learning Limited and taking it so literally is that in order to get everything out of Learning Limited, you would need to get every single ad set to more than 50 conversions a week, which would mean at least doubling your budget. Yeah. And if you're in a situation, let's say, where you've got one campaign, one ad set, and you're getting 10 purchases a month or 10 purchases a week. Yeah, let's go with 10 purchases a week. You still need to times that by 5 per week. So, over the month, you'd have to times that spend by 20. And that's just not realistic for a lot of business owners. And if for any like media buyers or account managers or anything like that, if somebody if somebody isn't hitting a like Learning Limited numbers high enough to get out of Learning Limited, the suggestion that they should just times their budget by 5, 10, 20 is going to go down like a lead balloon. And like indeed anybody can get out of Learning Limited with enough budget. It doesn't mean that that budget will be well spent in that pursuit. So definitely something worth considering when you see that caution, because it's in truth just not going to be the big difference maker for you. So I wanted to cover um, a couple of things, and I think one of the best ways to do it might be to draw it for you guys. So I might even just share my screen while I do this. you'll have to excuse me for the if I just share my screen, hang on. You'll have to excuse me for my ability to draw. It's not up there with the best, but we'll do it. So I wanted to kind of expand on what I mean by learning limited just a little bit more, and hopefully give you just a little bit more of a bird's eye view of the process. So when you're first kicking off an ad, you've probably seen it. Well, we'll even start right at the beginning, and it'll be in drafts. Yeah. So we have in drafts, and that's when we're creating it. From there, we'll publish it, and then that will go to a phase called processing. And processing will take about 30 seconds, something like that. Yeah, it's not going to take a very long time at all. It's just the computer getting it into the system. So nice and easy. From there, we are going to move on to the next step where it's then going to go to in review. And in review, this can take sometimes I've known it take weeks sometimes, which is obviously not how long you want it to take. But in review, that can take anywhere from like 30 minutes to, like I say, it can take weeks. That is an exception though. It usually is less than a day. So we've got something in drafts. We publish it. Yeah, I'll just put a P there for publish. So we publish it, and we can see that it goes into processing, which is obviously great because we're getting our ad out there, and then it will go into review. From there, this is where we get a split, yeah, because two things can happen after a review. For anybody who's kind of like bumped into the side of Facebook that you don't want to be on, it can be rejected. Yeah. So from here, if it's rejected, you also have a couple of decisions to make. You could change it. Yeah, you could just change your ad. So if I just put here, change, you could change your ad there. Nice and easy. Additionally, if I draw another one, you could appeal. If you feel like this ad was flagged incorrectly, you can appeal. Yeah, and you can say, no, Facebook, you've made a mistake. And ideally, that'll push it into a different bracket. Additionally, there is another option that we have, and you might think, oh, what could this other option be? And that's just leave it. Leave it. If we knew we were playing with fire or something like that, or maybe we've got enough good winning ads anyway, we could just leave this one. We don't even need it. Yeah, so we could just leave that ad. So these are the options that we have available to us here. Sorry, that B was really annoying me. There we go. So let's move on to what the alternatives could be. And of course, that's going to be approved, yeah? And so once an ad has been approved, and I'll just put it here just to kind of annotate this arrow. Once an ad has been approved, we can see that it will go into the learning process. So I might even do like a quick little bam like that. Yeah. And so from here, we have learning. So now the ad is running. Yeah. And of course, if we appealed it and it goes back into review, gets a proper review, it could get approved. And then we start delving into this bit. Yeah. So ideally, this is making sense. So from there, if it's learning, we've got two options. It's either getting 50 conversions a week or it's not. Yeah. So it's as simple as that. So what I might do is I'll just throw in here 50 conversions per week, and then I'll make that a question. And what I can do here is I can put it here, and then I can take us in two different directions, can't I? AKA yes and no. So from here, let's say yes. So if it is, that's going to move into a phase called active, or active if you can't spell. Active, there we go. So there we go. And then from here, we could also suggest that the opposite of that is no. No, it's not, and then it's going to go into learning limited. Yeah. And it's going to stay in learning limited until it either does or shows signs of getting 50 conversions a week. So this tends to be how it looks. This is the situation, and of course, over time, I'll just do a dotted line for us here. World's worst dotted line going to me. There we go. And from there, you can see the in Learning Limited, if we're making steps towards getting that 50 conversions a week, we'll move towards active. However, people seem to think that just getting them active is going to be like profitable, and that's just not the case. Yeah. And likewise, Learning Limited has this horrible connotation that we can't possibly make money in Learning Limited. We can't possibly test in Learning Limited. And that is just false. So abandon that right now, because you don't need to worry about that. Now I know what you're thinking. This is such an amazing drawing. I can't believe he would ever get rid of it, but I am going to do that. So we have more space to talk about these options. In case you really did get an emotional attachment to that drawing, don't forget I will upload this call tomorrow, and you can see it there. So I wanted to now draw two graphs for you. Yeah, we have the idea. That one's terrible. Sorry, I'll try again. You know what? We'll leave it like that. Okay, we've got two graphs for you, and I'm going to call this one learning, and I'm going to call this one active. Yeah. See if I can circle them as well. I can. Nice. So what I'm going to say is this is stable performance. Yeah. This is stable performance. This is bad performance. This is good performance. Yeah. So anything here is good performance. Anything here is bad performance. And anything here on this line is just stable performance. Yeah. So ideally, with stable performance, we would just see this line. Yeah. No deviations. And the same is true for this one. Yeah. So let's kind of unpack what Facebook say about learning. So what they say is, and this is going to be a real challenge because I'm using a trackpad on my Mac, but we'll see how it goes. What Facebook say is you can expect more fluctuations, yeah, in your results. So it's like this, aka it's less stable, yeah. However, you're still getting really bad performance and really good performance as well. Active just means that Facebook feels like it can operate on this stability for the long term. Yeah. That's the way that it thinks it can do. You'll notice that these would probably average out to about the same. Yeah. But if you are talking about steadying the ship for the long term, this is what Facebook say active can do. Now, in reality, because every account is different, this is very hard to see, yeah, in practice. And one thing that I would say is if you are spending like 6 figures on ads, or like 6 figures a month on ads, you are going to see this stability more than people who spend less, because you are leveraging the machine learning, which, remember, I said it's like the more it learns. So we've got the idea that the more it learns, the faster it learns. Yeah. So the more it learns, the faster it learns. And the more it learns, the faster it learns. And it just keeps on this self-fulfilling prophecy until it's going like super quick. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. So this is the mechanics of learning limited. Now, what I'm not saying, and hopefully you can tell by everything that I've covered, I'm not saying in any way that active is better than learning limited. I'm also not saying that learning limited is better than active. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that learning limited is more common for a lot of people who are running accounts. You're going to have more ads a lot of the time in learning or learning limited than you are in active. And that's fine. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to recognize this is the boat that I'm in, and I can't just triple my budget to get out of this. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'll probably just do like a quick bit of maths for you here, just to kind of elucidate what I mean by that. Let's say we're getting 10 conversions a week. Yeah, 10 conversions a week. And we are paying a good number for that. Let's say our cost per purchase is $20. So we've got a $20 cost per purchase. Great stuff. Loving that. Not too bad. Kind of an average. Certainly, depending on your AOV, could be leading to profit there. So we've got 10 results. I'll even put that there. 10 results at a $20 cost per purchase, which means that we have spent 200 on this in the week. Yeah. So we've spent 200 in amount spent. So the problem here is, let's say this was all under one campaign, one ad set, one ad. Yeah, just to make our lives nice and easy from a maths point of view, because I'm not the best at it. But let's consider here, oh no, we're going to be in Learning Limited because we've got 10 results a week. Yeah. So it's, how do I know we're going to be in Learning Limited? Because we're not getting 50 results a week. So it's a nice yes and no question. Nice, or answer, maybe. So from here, what we can say is that in order for me to get out of Learning Limited, I need to times my results by 5, because that equals the magic number that Facebook has of 50. Now, for the eagle-eyed people, you might consider, well, why is it so specific that it has to be on 50? And the truth is that it probably doesn't. Yeah. If you're on if you're on 49 conversions a week, then you are going to be doing very well in terms of leveraging the machine learning. You're not quite at 50, but that's just because 50 in this case is it's almost an arbitrary number. Yeah. To say get to this, and you will be, for the most part, making the most of the algorithm. So if we times our results by 5, we're going to get to 50. One of the ways we can do that is by increasing our budget. Yeah. So if we wanted to immediately get out of Learning Limited as soon as possible, what we'd have to do is times this by 5 as well. I don't know why I've done an equal sign. So times our amount spent by 5. So here I've now gone from spending 800 a month to, I believe that's 1,000 a week. So gone from spending 800 a month to four grand a month. Yeah. So this is a huge increase in budget, and quite often, like, I know these are small numbers to some of you, but quite often you will see scenarios like this, even if the numbers aren't the same. And so these are the mechanics of Learning Limited, and I think it's important to recognize that it just isn't the end of the world to get out of it. And I'll kind of like highlight what I meant earlier when I said, what about if we've got a retargeting campaign? So I had a client once, and this client was a very famous singing coach, loads of followers in terms of like socials, subscribers on YouTube, that kind of thing. So nice warm audiences for me to leverage. And at the time, we were really focusing on having like warm audiences and targeting those. So what I did was I took the middle and bottom of the funnel and I made an audience for it, and I set up this campaign. this campaign got about 20 purchases a week. Yeah. So 20 purchases a week. We'll just put 20 results here. So we got 20 results a week, and the cost per purchase was, I think it was really low. I think it was $6. Yeah. So it was working really well. Now the product costs $100. Yeah. So you can see that results were going very well. Yeah. So here I was getting a $6 cost per result, and that was resulting in $100 of revenue coming in, and a lot of that was profit. Yeah. Uh, as it happened, I couldn't scale this up much further because of frequency and the numbers. Are kind of like more of a guideline anyway for this what I'm talking about. Where here, because I've got 20 results a week, I know I'm in Learning Limited, and I was on a call with the client and a Facebook rep who said, "Oh, you'll really want to scale this campaign." And I said, "We can't scale this campaign. The frequency is too high." And they said, "Well, the problem is you're in Learning Limited, and you are getting 20 results a week." And I said, "We can't spend more on this to get out of Learning Limited, because our frequency is what it is." And so they said to me, "Yeah, but you are going to see like you're going to be seeing worse performance." And I was like, "Well, not really, because I'm on a $6 CPR, so I'm happy to pay $6 to turn it into $100 for every purchase until the cows come home." So that was, how that conversation went down, and the Facebook rep was like, "You know what? I see what you're saying," and so they kind of like didn't push it further. And that was the idea, and that is an example of how you can have a campaign where everything is in Learning Limited, and you can see it. It would be in Learning Limited from here, but you still get the results. Yeah. So that would be what I would say on Learning Limited there. So we've covered the reasons why you kind of like see it, how you can get past it in terms of spend, but how you likely won't because of the realities of working in businesses or for businesses. And you've also encountered a reason why it probably won't matter in this. The final thing I wanted to cover on Learning Limited was where we'll stand in terms of trying our best to get there, but not making it everything. Yeah. So Facebook is right because the more it learns, the faster the machine learning learns. Yeah. So we don't want to completely ignore this because we want to make sure that we're making the most of our machine learning. How do we do that? So what we'll want to do is not split our campaigns so much. Yeah. So there's two things I want us to consider here. There's budget and there's also data. Yeah. So we've got budget, we've got data, and I'm going to treat these. I know that they are different things, very different things. But what I'm going to suggest to you is that they are going to suffer from the same problems if we don't consolidate. So what do I mean by consolidate? I want as much of the budget and data in as few places as possible. So if I have a budget of, let's just keep it nice and easy, of 100 a day, yeah, and then I'm going to split that 5 ways, yeah, that's going to be across 5 different campaigns, and then I'm going to split those into 2 different ad sets each, yeah, and in those 2 different ad sets, I'm now going to split those into 4 different ads. Yeah. And you start to get the idea. I apologize, my drawing is really quite poor. But ideally, you'll see that we actually have split this budget into loads of different pieces. What does that mean? Well, it means that this 100 is not getting it's not getting spread, or it's getting spread too thin. It's not getting put in one place enough. And the same thing goes for data. Yeah. So budget is from our perspective. Data is going to be from Facebook's perspective. Yeah. And let's say there are 100 purchases. Yeah. 100 purchases. And if we have that same structure, what we're going to have, well, that is really quite terrible. Sorry. We are going to have these 5 splits here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got the 2 splits underneath, like that. And then we've got an additional 4 splits underneath that. And you start to see how it becomes problematic because all of this data is split. And what does that mean? Where is the problem here? Well, the problem is that everything that has its own split is like unique. It's learning about how it's going to operate for this ad. If I just draw the 4 lines coming from this one, it's going to like work out, okay, there's a data point attached to that ad. But the problem is that there's all these 100 data points are split here, 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 like in a bunch of different areas. Nothing is learning enough. It's all learning one thing, like from one purchase. So what we need to do is reduce the areas in which there can be data. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at Facebook's Advantage Shopping campaign just as a starter. Yeah. One of Facebook's latest um, uh, Facebook ads tools that they've come out with is an Advantage Shopping campaign. So where we usually see a campaign, an ad set, and an ad, if I can draw, there we go, campaign, ad set, ad. What the Advantage Plus Shopping campaign has changed that to is a consolidated campaign and ad set level. So all of a sudden, we don't have 1, 2 places to store data. It's just the one. Yeah. And then Facebook recommends consolidation. So under that, we can run our ads under here. We don't need loads of different campaigns to run, like to run all this. So we need to think about the recommendation being, do we want this campaign to run? So to learn rather, and while it's running. And so what you'll find is that you will want to towards a more simplistic structure that enables you to test creative. Yeah. Why did Facebook come out with Advantage Plus shopping campaigns? Because Facebook know that creative is the most important thing. Because Facebook published something recently that said that over 50% of actions taken from ads are as a result of the creative. Yeah. So messing around on the campaign and ad set level really isn't in the best interest of the advertiser or the business owner who is advertising. Yeah. So what you actually want to do, if you're Facebook, is make this really easy, because then you can make ads that are definitely going to focus more on the creative side of things. We've got a question in the chat that says, would I split campaigns for different offers to the same audience? For example, I have a $37 funnel and I have a webinar funnel that sells a 1K product. Should they be in the same campaign or on their own? And does that apply to the testing campaign and the scaling campaign? This is a brilliant question, and this is kind of what I'm about to go into, so it's perfect timing. So what we definitely want to make sure is that campaigns that are trying to achieve different things are on their own, because we might want to be testing different things and might find that different things are going to resonate differently. If I can use that word one more time, I'll try. And what we'll find is that when we're testing here, we're learning. So if we're sending people into different areas, like for one is a webinar, one's like a $37 product. Different people are going to resonate differently with that. And I said those words twice again, so I managed to do it. So what we're going to want to do is separate those because they're trying to achieve different things. And that is what I was about to say. We want to identify, do we want this ad or ad set or campaign? Is this going to be leading the charge? And if something's leading the charge, then it absolutely has to learn, and it has to learn in a way where the more it learns, the faster it learns. Yeah. Whereas, so that would be something like a scaling campaign. Yeah. We want to push budget in that. We want to push budget in a scaling campaign. Why? Because it's going to learn, and the more it learns, the faster it learns. You get the idea. Now, let's flip the script and talk about testing for a while. I'll get rid of this as well. Now, in our testing, we're not so much worried about the machine learning element of spinning the wheel so that more it learns, the faster it learns. What we're actually more interested in is we are more interested in having control. We've got control. We're testing. Yeah. I want to test whether this creative is a waste of money or not. Is this getting us money plus dollars, or is it losing us money? I don't want to scale something that is going to lose us money. And so I need to think about testing an ad first to find out which one of these is, which one. Yeah. And if it's going to get us money, I want to scale it. If it's going to lose us money, I don't want it. So we can't just have only a scaling campaign. Yeah. We can't just have a one campaign account, or at least that's my perspective. So what we need to have here is this idea that we want to test. Yeah. So our testing campaign is probably not going to get out of Learning Limited all that often. Yeah. Like, because we've got ad sets in it with ads underneath it that are going to get rotated loads. We're going to be making a lot of changes to the testing campaign because we're going to be adding in lots of ad sets, or maybe if we're testing on CBO, we'll be adding in lots of ads. Yeah. So these changes and the amount of new ads that are just getting tested, that is going to result in us staying in the learning phase probably quite a lot. So our testing campaign, we want to be aware that we're running the testing campaign not for Facebook's machine learning, but for us. We have control over this testing campaign. Because when we've got control of the testing campaign, what we can do is we can promote the winners. Yeah. So we've got the dubs here. These are the winners. Yeah. And they go into the scaling campaign. And this scaling campaign is what we want to leverage the machine learning. The more it learns, the faster it learns. And it's this self-fulfilling cycle. Yeah. And so if we test, we can ensure that winners are going in the scaling campaign, and then we're making the most of the machine learning. We're not jumping the gun and just putting it in a scaling campaign already. So that is something to consider. Where does this fit in with Learning Limited? Because it doesn't matter that this one's in Learning Limited at all. Because what we're doing is we're finding this performance. Yeah, we're finding the performance from the ads, and then we're going to push it in a scaling campaign. So this campaign is unlikely to get out of Learning Limited, much like the middle and bottom of funnel, or maybe you're just running a bottom of funnel, that kind of thing. Yeah. Maybe what you're doing, and this takes it back to the question earlier that we got in chat, where maybe what you're doing in the top of funnel is you are trying to get a lead, and in the bottom of the funnel, you're trying to get a purchase. Okay. Well, those two need to be different campaigns, then I would suggest. Otherwise, we're mixing up our attribution and our conversions, and it starts to get really messy to manage. So we need to recognize here that certain campaigns are for us, yeah, because we're advertisers, we're advertising, and certain campaigns are for Facebook, yeah, such as maybe an Advantage Plus shopping campaign for scaling, yeah. That's going to make Facebook a lot of money, probably, especially if it's getting us a lot of results, because we'll just scale it, yeah. So this is great for Facebook because we're going to pour money into it and it's going to start learning. And the more it learns, the faster it learns. Yeah. These are not going to do that because they're not going to get 50 conversions a week. So who are these for? They're for us so that we can test and we can be more efficient with our budget. Yeah. And that we can retarget so we can get more for our money, maybe. Yeah. We can get the hottest traffic. Yes, we can't spend loads on this, but we can certainly make these things happen. Yeah. Uh, we've got a question in the chat from Hugo. Can being at the lowest end of the daily allowable budget have an effect on Facebook prioritizing an ad set, possibly causing it to stay in Learning Limited? Asking this as I have seen ad sets exit Learning Limited as the budget was scaled up. As results came in, these ad sets were started with a budget that was above the lowest allowable. So what I would say is that when you're getting out of Learning Limited, that's got more to do with where the budget's at when it gets out of Learning Limited. You can start something right at the bottom. If I just get rid of all this, yeah, let's draw a graph. And we've got, oh, that is terrible. I'm really bad at drawing graphs. That's something that I've learned. Maybe I need to join a master class of people who can draw graphs. So if we've got really low spend here and then we start to scale it up, yeah, what we're going to find is that our chances of getting out of Learning Limited are also going to do this. Yeah. So here we're not going to have chances of getting out of Learning Limited. As soon as we start to increase the budget, then yeah, we're going to reach a point where it's likely that we'll get over 50 conversions a week and we'll get there. Yeah. So that'd be my thoughts on that. How starting at the lowest daily amount is fine, but it's about where it gets to when it starts to come out. Now, I wanted to highlight this kind of as an additional thought because this is a situation that I've been in and I was confused as well when this happened. I had a campaign that I was running, and I worked with this company and they sold like pet accessories, let's call them. Yeah, pet accessories. And they did absolutely excellent. I think their average return was a 20x. And for media buyers, or at least lucky media buyers, quite often what you can do is bump into an account where it just feels like whatever you do works. Yeah. And that was the case here, where anything that we tried, any new direction the business wanted, everything just worked, and it was a great account to work on as a result of that, as I'm sure you can relate. So these guys were on a 20x, yeah. And then they said to me, Kai, we want to push something new. Yeah. And I can't even remember what it was now. But they said, because it's new, I want it in a new campaign. And I was like, you know what? Okay, that makes sense. We've got everything working right now across these 4 or 5 different campaigns. I'm more than happy to put this new risk in a new campaign so that it doesn't affect what we have going on elsewhere. Because if I put this new thing in an existing campaign and it all blows up, I have just wasted 2 years of my life trying to get the best possible performance out of this account just to blow it up overnight. Yeah. So they said, "Yep, okay, I agree. Let's set it up in its own campaign." So we get this thing in its own campaign, and the first week we are at a 0.7. Yeah, which I'm not panicking about because it's week one. However, it looks very different to 20x that they're used to seeing across the board. Now, I was fully expecting them to kind of pull the plug on this and be like, no, not going to work. But what they'd actually done is they'd invested in like a heap of stock. That's a heap. They'd invested in a heap of stock. So what that actually meant was that we had to commit. Yeah. And over time and a bit of optimization, we actually got it up to a 2.2x. Yeah. Now, for this product, this was, well, the break even was 2. Yeah. So for this product, it was just about profitable. Now, I'm going to highlight again that everything else was at a 20x, pretty much. Yeah. So I couldn't figure out why we were of course we had the stock issues, but why we were committed to spending so much on this 2.2x because they had a specific spend goal that they wanted me to spend every month. So on that particular product. So I did. So we did that. And I want to say it was about 6 months that we were doing that for. Yeah. And because we had spent like a certain amount, we were getting maybe like 2.2x. Yeah. It never really had like a great breakthrough where it went to 3x. And then one day I logged in December and it was at 7x. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And then I logged in a couple of days later into that account and we were at 14x. And I was thinking, well, why is this all of a sudden becoming very popular? The ads haven't changed. We had like a very set group of ads that we were running. There was no offer in them beyond that had been changed. And then as we moved into January, because I thought, oh, maybe this is kind of just December performance. You know how it is. Sometimes you get that uptick. We hit 22x in January. And then it stayed like that for the next 6 months. And the interesting thing was that we were in Learning Limited like the whole time until we started to hit these really high numbers. And we started to get lots of purchases, and it turned into one of their best performers. Now this took a long time because we're talking from about April to maybe January. Yeah, so and this was consistent spend that at the start wasn't that profitable. The interesting part of this is that over time, if I just draw what we were talking about earlier, over time, what it was doing was it was learning very slow. Yeah. So the more it learns, the faster it learns. But it wasn't doing this part very quickly, but it started this loop. Yeah. And over time, this started to go from really slow, it started to speed up. And this learning process, this learning phase, eventually made us like quite a lot of money on a product that initially didn't take off, which tells me about the importance of like longevity in an ad's like lifespan. So having those ads kind of uh having that lifespan be so long is one of the reasons why where it was. Yeah, Tara, just to answer, maybe you missed this. If it wasn't profitable for a while, what told you not to kill the campaign in those early months? So I had conversations with them saying, I don't think this is very profitable for us right now. I think the money would best be spent elsewhere. They had the conversation with me and they said, look, we've got a heap of stock. We need to move it. Even if even if it's not profitable initially, we're committed to standing by it. So I did think about killing it, but they said to me, no, we need to be advertising it because we've got so much stock and we're worried we won't be able to move it otherwise. And that was the situation that they were in, perhaps a unique situation, perhaps not. Um, yeah, and so we had that conversation and then it was profitable. And again, even when it was profitable, I said, like, are we sure we want to be spending here because it's not the most cost effective campaign that we had? And they said, look, we've got all this stock. Anything profitable is a win here. So that's why we stuck with it. And then all of a sudden, like over time, well, I suppose it wasn't sudden, was it? But all of a sudden I come in and it moves to 7x to 14x to 22x and just carried on and joined and even surpassed everything else, which was really important and really interesting. So hopefully that answers your question there. And then Hugo says, was it learning faster just to increase budget? So no is the answer. Um, Even though that's a great question, we have kind of two influences here. We can increase budget, of course we can. Yeah, you're exactly right there. But what we can also do is decrease cost per purchase. Yeah, and so that's why optimization was important here, and is important, because I was able to decrease the cost of purchase because the longer it went on, the more I could optimize, the more I could find the best performing ad and cut out the ones that didn't work. Because this was um, a pet company, quite often it had stuff to do with like the specific breeds that would be interested in this. So like finding the ideal one, finding the ideal way to present that as well. So I remember we had one ad that was a they were very good on camera as well. But we had this very good dog trainer and they used the product and that ad was really good. And then we had other ads where it was just, somebody getting the product like this harness or whatever it was, like I don't know, I struggle to explain it. Get this harness on this dog and just a feature point out from there in terms of that video. So there's a lot of optimization is the point of that tangent. And so I was able to reduce the cost per purchase down. And in conjunction with that, when we started to see better results, we were actually able to allocate more budget to it. And then, the thing that surprised us was that from having a heap of stock that we wanted to shift, we then moved to actually wanting to restock, which kind of wasn't the foresawn, foreseen conclusion, but it did work out really well. No, I appreciate it. That is it's a situation that I haven't bumped into often. Yeah, but my point is that this ad was it was stuck behind for so long that it was actually able to learn. And we're talking about there, if we don't have the budget to get out of Learning Limited now, sometimes we just need to take our best ads and we need to let them run. And over time, with enough budget, with enough data, they will start to kind of fulfill this process on their own. Yeah. So you'll be able to reduce cost per purchase, increase budget ideally with scaling, and that's going to help you get out of Learning Limited. So that is that's all to say. You can perform with ads outside of Learning Limited. It is not the be all and end all, and you can get out of it if you kind of commit to pushing an ad for longer. And it also goes to talk about longevity and how we can't be making decisions kind of like overnight and in the first couple of days. So lots to kind of consider there. But yeah, definitely alongside our discussion, sorry, not alongside our concussion, alongside our discussion with Learning Limited, I think that example and how pushing things over a long term and looking over a longer term mindset, that's going to be important. So um, my recommendation would definitely be consolidate. Do you need another campaign to make this happen? If you do, go for it. If you don't, then you want to stick in the campaign that you have. Do you need to be splitting into 10 different audiences? Probably not. A lot of people don't realize that with detailed target expansion on by default, what we're actually going to be operating on is quite a lot of overlap if you've got 10 different ad sets with different audiences. Additionally, just to a kind of point to hammer home, like on the final element of this, is that remember that not all campaigns are designed to get out of Learning Limited. For me, quite often, a testing campaign, I'm not running that to get it out of Learning Limited because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify winners based on a fair amount of spend, a fair amount of time being live. I'm trying to identify those winners so that I'm able to um, promote them into a scaling. Yeah. And so if I've just got this ongoing campaign where I keep making loads of changes because I'm testing lots of creative, that testing campaign, that's not getting the most out of machine learning. which is okay because I don't need the machine to learn from that. I need to learn from that. It's on me. It's on me to learn from that. So I make that decision. I kill the ad and I say it didn't work because of this. I promote the ad and I say it worked because of this. And that's going to help me move forward and make better ads. The more better ads I make, the more ads I promote into the scaling campaign. And that scaling campaign is designed to learn from machine learning. Yeah. Because I'm going to be spending more and more on that. And I'm additionally going to be putting in ideally creative that can get lower and lower cost per purchases. Yeah. Or different cost per purchases. So the idea there is that a retargeting, well, that's not going to get out of Learning Limited probably. So that one's for me. You know what I mean? That one's because I want better return. Yeah, it's not for Facebook because I'm not spending enough money on that one to make it worth it for them. Whereas for a scaling campaign, oh, they're gonna love me. Yeah. An Advantage Plus campaign, like for the catalog, oh, they'll love that because we can scale that. Yeah. So that's the whole talk on Learning Limited. Tara, you have your hand up.
Hey Kai. So I'm new to this. I've just started testing ads. We have three winning ads right now. One of them was in a past campaign that I had that just kind of started to dwindle down recently, or I thought it did and I turned it off and whatever, it's a big deal. But so I have three winning ads that I could potentially move over into a scaling campaign now. The other two ads are only being tested at like $8, $9 a day, but they're going well. If I'm moving those over into a scaling campaign and I only have three ads that the budget is going to go to, what budget should I be adding that to so that my frequency isn't going up too high? Like, is there an ideal number of ads before I start moving them over, or do I just decrease the budget?
What I would do is I start to as I get more winning ads, I just start to move the budget across. So what I'll do is sometimes obviously in a newer account you'll be like 100% of your budget is testing because you have no existing ads. Sometimes it's like 80% is testing, sometimes it's like 80% is scaling. Yeah. So in a scenario where let's say it's like 80% of my budget is on testing, I will start to siphon that 80% down and move it into scaling budget. I wouldn't worry too much about frequency, especially if you're testing things on like $9 and stuff like that. I think you'll be fine there,
Okay.
and you'll just want to move them over so that they can start to learn, and that whole campaign ad set ad can start to learn on where you're going to be pushing or where it wants to push the budget in those different
So
scenarios.
it's
So
based on how much money I want to spend then.
yeah, it is. It definitely is. And it's not only on how much money you want to spend, but how much money you want to spend on testing versus scaling.
Okay.
Yeah. You're definitely going to need proof of performance to scale. And if
Right.
you've got that, then you need to think about, okay, what's important to me now? How should I spend my budget now? Because anytime we test, we open ourselves up to wasted spend because we don't know if it's going to work or not. If you've got a winner, ideally it will work, and so you can change your budgets around scaling versus testing depending on what you need.
Okay. So my frequency right now at like $8 a day was already 1.5. Doesn't that sound a little high?
Well, I'm not sure that I'd be worried about a 1.5. I think that was fine. I
Okay.
think it's when it starts to drift up to like 2 and beyond,
Okay.
and there's different reasons why that might be in different ways around it.
Okay. There was something else I was gonna ask on that point, and oh, when I am moving an ad from testing to scaling, am I trying to take the ad ID to like take the same exact ad, or am I trying to like just copy it all over and set it up new?
So in an ideal world, you'll be able to take the post ID. However, Facebook keep making changes and they claim that they're not trying to get rid of post IDs for ads. But
Okay.
what can often happen is that in certain accounts or in certain situations, you can't actually pull the post ID,
Okay.
which is obviously not ideal. But if that's the case, you'll just have to duplicate it.
Okay. My other question, when I'm in the testing campaign, what we were testing with was a 1% lookalike audience. Do you recommend that? Do you recommend doing something else for testing campaign?
I always recommend just test with your best performing audience. If you're
Okay.
seeing performance in your 1% lookalike, that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
No worries at all. We'll finish on Hugo's question, because we've just hit our time. So Hugo,
Oh,
ask away.
Thanks so much, man. And sorry for all the questions. I just got another quick one for you.
Yep.
I'm just checking my ads manager here. So, I have five campaigns, a lookalike, a retargeting, and then I have three open targeting campaigns that target three different ranges of products. Okay.
Okay.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense. So all three of the open targeting ones, that's what my question is about. We've seen really, really good results with all three of these campaigns towards the last 6 months, the last year, especially the last 3 months. But the thing is, we had really good results because our budget per ad set. So we do the one where you put the custom budget on every ad set, and there's like, I mean, some of these ad sets have like 10, sorry, some of these campaigns have like 10 ad sets. Okay, some of them have five. There's a lot of ad sets in there. But when we increased the budget on these ad sets, like our results just went through the roof. And that's what my question was with regards to I if I am at the lowest budget allowable, does Facebook sort of say to me, okay, that's what we're going to give you? I can increase the budget, but the budget was increased last year based on the results. As soon as we reached the target cost per result, we just upped it, and eventually we got to a point where we were like, holy crap, look at what we're spending on ads, but we're getting the results and we're getting the sales from it. So and the other thing is, if I remember correctly, when we launched a new video ad set, we would actually go, I want to say almost double the minimum budget. We would start with something higher and then substantially work our way down. So now I've launched 3 or 4 new, or well, 6 or how many different ad sets with videos, but I've started at the bottom end and then I slowly work my way up. I just want to know, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, I think you are doing the right thing there. It sounds like it because when we're talking about like why your performance skyrocketed. So, we're talking over time, this and that's probably too small, but like remember the more it learns, the faster it learns. And so if we're using a smaller budget, it's going to learn slower because it's showing that ad fewer times and it's learning from that fewer times. And the process overall is slower. Now, as you start to increase the budget, it starts to learn more and more and more. And because of the nature of machine learning, it snowballs. And so it ends up performing better and better because you've given it more spend. And as well, from the sounds of the context that you've given me, you gave it more time as well. And so these are live, they've learned, and they're getting more budget. And so cost per purchase is coming down to where you need it to be, and scaling that budget up is getting the extra additional learnings. And what that's going to result in is ads learning quicker. And therefore it's going to learn, the algorithm is going to learn who to show it to better. And that's gonna result in kind of better
Okay,
performance.
so it doesn't necessarily, okay, so I understand the concept of time, and that's what I've learned over the last 2 years is these things take time to sort of get going. Okay.
Yeah.
But is it a bad thing to say, let's take a chance and let's increase the budget? Let's see if we can get it to learn faster and then be a little bit more specific with your scaling, say every 2 weeks or something like
Yeah.
that, instead of just letting it go. I just
So
don't want to limit the learning faster or the to get it to learn more faster or get more information by being stingy with the budget.
no, I think that's a great mindset to have, and I'm going to take it back to the point that I said to Tyrus. Now, if you're telling me you've got 5 campaigns and they're all killing it, and you are thinking about increasing the budget in terms of your testing, right off the rip, well, of course, by all means, go for it because you're in a position where right now you're saying, yeah, I'm willing to spend more on testing because I can. because I know that performance, once I've tested it, I know performance is there because I can, excuse me, I can scale stuff because I've done it with 5 other campaigns.
Mm.
So if you're saying to me like, oh no, I don't need to be spending all this money on winners. I can spend more on testing to find more winners so that I've got more long-term success with my scaling campaign. Absolutely, by all means, go for it. I don't think it's a bad attitude at all. Just remember, anytime we test, we're opening ourselves up to wasted spend. But if you're willing to do that and your mindset is that I don't want to lose out because of being stingy with the budget, I think I can understand that justification just fine.
Yeah, I just don't want to be operating at the minimum. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, everything is at the minimum, and that's not in my limited business mindset. I don't see that as, being you got to the biggest risk is the one you don't take.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
saying be irrational and spend lots of money on the ad sets. I'm just saying, like, one has to push a little bit, and I'm actually saying this to myself. But if I run 10 ad sets, like, I need to use my intuition. I just want to know. I don't want to waste irrationally. You know what I mean? I just want to know,
Yeah.
is there logic in saying, you know what, I've made this video. I think it's a good one. Let's go above the minimum and see how it does. Instead of
Yeah.
always just having everything at the minimum and then working your way up. Yes, you'll get results, but that'll probably take a lot more time.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more with what you've just said.
Great, man. Thanks so much for your input. Appreciate it.
No worries. And I want to say how much I appreciate everyone's time today. I know that a lot of the Learning Limited before we dived into the Q&A was a bit of a fire hose lecture, so appreciate you all putting up with me and my terrible drawing on this. And I want to thank you all for your time, your insight, your questions, everything like that. Obviously, we didn't have yesterday's call due to the Monday bank holiday over here in the UK. But like I say, wanted to say how much I appreciate your time. I'll be back with you guys next week. Enjoy all your live calls for the rest of the week, and indeed just enjoy all the rest of your weeks and weekends as well. See you next time. Bye.